introduction really about what we do and hopefully how our offer can help you, and then I'll be passing you on to my colleague Manju, and then ultimately to Graham, who is one of our walks leaders, who is a fount of knowledge. Anyway, right, well, for those of us who live and work in Llandudno, it has a sense of place and identity, which will include its identity as a tourist resort, its distinctive qualities such as the natural landscape, the Victorian Edwardian architecture, the pier, etc. But this may not be of foremost importance to us. Our sense of place invariably comes from the everyday world of personal and social. Emotional components influence perceptions of what places are like, and are couched in a language of sentiment, value, and other personal meanings. In other words, we create our own sense of place, of the places we live, and these will include where we live, work, shop, go for leisure, meet our friends, and we'll have our own routes to get there and a hierarchy of importance to us individually. However, this often does not include the heritage and cultural sites on our doorstep, as we tend to want to experience other places just like our visitors, and these sites on our own doorsteps are often relegated to something we can do any time, but actually frequently we never get round to. Many of your staff no doubt can tell you about bars and restaurants and other places like cafes they may be familiar with. Nevertheless, for your visitor, this lack of knowledge beyond our own remit of everyday life is a problem. They've come here to experience Llandudno in all its facets, including its heritage and culture. The physicality of the town with its distinct planning, architecture and landscape is the place they've come to experience, and they will be looking to yourselves and your staff to provide them with guidance on how they can experience Llandudno as a place with its own unique identity. Many will want to know what they can do and see, and will have questions such as, how old is the pier? Why are there statues of Alice in Wonderland characters dotted all around town? Who built Llandudno? Therefore, the training offered via the Heritage Walks can equip your staff and you with the knowledge they require to provide additional customer service and an enhanced visitor experience, because happy visitors with a positive experience will be returning visitors. So why not sign up your staff for a walk and tour of the museum to get a unique overview of Llandudno's heritage, which can help improve your own offer. Now I'm going to pass you over to Manju in a moment, and she will then tell you how you can enrol. This is Manju, and she is our volunteer and walks coordinator.
Hi, I've met you all through the front and here. I hope you all had coffee and tea, had some biscuit Kit Kat, I guess. Happy to have you all here today. Good turnout, as we can see. Few things that I'm about to say now is how to enroll for the walk. We usually give the tickets either in the front reception, or we do have a platform where we sell the tickets or tickets. It's easy accessible, and you can just call us if you want to come in. All sorts, you know. It is available however you want to come in. So I know a few of our representatives are here from several hospitality businesses. But if you want to send over some of your colleagues or managerial people, whoever wants to come and experience Llandudno through Llandudno Museum and Gallery, we are happy to have you. And if you want to enroll for such walk, which happens on every Thursday at the moment till end of October, and we also have some special walks by Graham and also Mr. Tim. He's also one of our volunteers. We are doing some special walks in November as well. The dates are, one is today, one is October 27th, and the other one is November 10th and November 17th. So you can either send me an email, which are on every leaflet we have here. So it's not something magical, it's on our website, it's everywhere. So just send me an email, or I do have a registration enrollment form that you can put in your names or your colleagues' names whom you want to send in, and we'll arrange the walk for. So I think not just this one, we've got 3 more. So feel free, book in. It's not just about the heritage walk that we are going to go on today. We do have several other walks which are also mentioned on the leaflets we provide. One of those is LGBTQ walk, which many of you might be aware. We've done it throughout the summer with one of our education officers, Dr. Dawn Bell. So if you want to arrange some of those, if you have a group of people who are interested in LGBTQ walk, we can arrange the walk according to the group's availability. We've got a Jewish walk, which will be conducted on November 13th. It is also on the information provided in one of our leaflets. So feel free if someone's interested in Jewish walk, which is a big hit in summer. So why not, you know? We did have a digitalized church walk, but if you want to go through and all, we are still developing few more bits to the walk to make it more interesting for coming summer. I'm hoping we'll start in March-ish, so the weather is comfortable for us rather than the rainy day like today. We are also developing walks on plaques. We do have colorful plaques in and around Llandudno, but probably no one knows what color is representing which department or something like that. So we are kind of developing plaques walk at the moment. So again, hold on for summer, it will be there. We do have an interesting walk, which is biodiversity walk, which is also a huge hit in summer, and it is also good for mental health and well-being. We've got feedbacks because we do a little survey after every walk, and feedbacks are absolutely amazing. And I know the credit goes to our team leads here who take them on the walk. Rain or shine, they never stop. So a great applause for them probably. After this one, we will be going for a whistle stop museum tour as well. It's a surprise. We said heritage walk for you and the promotions, but we do want to provide a little insight of what's in the museum as well. Not just about what's in Llandudno. We want to show us, we have 7 galleries. So Dawn will be taking you on a little whistle tour, so you can experience a little bit of what's in the museum as well. Last but not least, if you are willing to have our promotional material in your, like the desk area, we are happy to give a little hotel discount, which we are currently tied up with the Elm Tree Hotel and Llandudno Hotel. So currently the adult ticket price is £6, but if you can send us through, it will be only £4. So that's what we call hotel discount. We did print out some cards. We did print out some cards, something like that. So we'll be giving you these cards. You don't need to take it today. I'll send volunteers over to hand it over in the businesses. All you have to do is just write the establishment name, guest name, and date. So if they come with this card to us, we'll give them the hotel discount, which will only be £4. So I think, give and take kind of stuff, Just you have to do is put our materials in your front desk and just tell them that if you go through with this one, you'll get a special discount for you. And that's it. So that's it for me. I won't take much of your time. Are we all ready for the visit tour?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey? Come on in.
Okay, has anybody got any questions before I take you around the museum?
I don't think so. Is there any reason why you don't do a locals discount at the museum?
Well, we try to keep with our prices as low as we can because we're just a charitable trust, so we're not funded. We get a small grant from the town hall, but as I said, it's quite a large building to keep the lights on, so to be perfectly honest, we try and keep it as low as we can. I said we do a seniors discount, but at the moment we are looking at, and I've just been in discussion about developing an annual ticket, which will basically just be we're looking at possibly doing it maybe £1 more than the ordinary ticket, and then you can come and return, which would be ideal for locals. So we are looking at that. It's just really for us just to try and kind of balance the books, because as I said, there is no local authority museum in Conway County, as I'm sure you probably know. There's the Culture Centre, but that's basically archives and library. So we are the only museum, and we serve the schools, and I do quite a lot of free events and free teaching as well. So I've got some groups coming in actually from Llandudno. These are young people who are trying to get work experience and to build their confidence. So I have 2 groups of those twice a week for this semester, and again throughout the year, and that's all done for free. We also work with Cuffler and at Fairyad, and also will have free access here. So again, I work with quite a lot of the mental health charities again, so they have free access, and we work together in partnership. So I do try and do my best as much as I can to try and support the local community and causes. So as I said, we've got a biodiversity garden at the back, which again, Cuffler would have been here this morning, but the weather is utterly awful, but we might, if it's still bad next week, we'll do an activity inside, but they'll often work in the garden, so we've got a summer house and there's seating out there, and it's quite a nice sort of contemplative place as well. So as I said, that's some of the things that we do for the community, if you're with me. Just hope that answers. So.
Can I ask if is there a limit to the group tours that we could bring?
Normally we would suggest, sort of numbers wise for a group, round about 16.
Right.
So we do that. So basically, because otherwise it's harder to kind of speak to a group of people, and it gives us, and also what we normally do is, because obviously you've come today, but we have health and safety form, which they all fill in, which is destroyed immediately after the walk, but it asks questions such as, are they on medication? So for instance, if somebody's diabetic, or if they have an allergy, we know that they need an EpiPen, and then that comes back. So as I said, but we find that sort of 16 is about enough to manage. Yeah. And also we want them to have a good quality experience as well. So that tends to be it. Again, if we're going to be doing sort of tours in the museum, normally I would say sort of 16 to 18, because again, because otherwise, as I said, it kind of gets a little bit unwieldy and not everyone can hear, and as I said, so we try and sort of.
And do you also go out to organisations to do a talk, or?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we send out some of our trustees will be very happy to go out. And some of them are brilliant. I don't know if any of you know Judith Phillips. Judith is great. I mean, she just has a fantastic amount of local knowledge. She's been a reporter for years, but also she's her family from here, and she's kind of involved in lots of things, isn't she?
Loads of things.
Loads of things. So, and as I said, she's great. There's also Philip Evans, who's one of the was a town councillor, recently retired, but again, Philip's got specialist areas as well, so he's great on transport, military, so we can kind of do things to suit people's needs as well. And obviously we have activities here, so we have different classes. We have crochet every Saturday, so we have a bit of crochet and chat and coffee, so there's different things, so we try and, as I said, have something for everybody really. That's kind of our general aim. So nobody else? No? Right, then if that's the case, then I think we'll just do a reasonably quick walkthrough, but it'll just give you an overview of what we've got here. I'll point out some sort of quirky bits as we go around, because there's always kind of things I think that kind of surprise people, that they think, I didn't know about that. So we'll have a wander through. So if you'd like to follow me, and then what we'll do, once we're done, we'll come back here, and then we'll decide on the course of action.
Let's come back and meet here again, so you can take some leaflets and fill in some names and stuff. I leave the forms here, so they're all available for you.
Did you notice the maps?
Oh yeah.
Yes, all the ordnance surveys. They are a proper sense of place, you see. If you look at 1887 then. Right then. Are we all through? Right. Okay, all right. We'll start down here. That's all right, don't worry. Actually, what we'll do is we'll start in this hall around the corner, and so this is.
That's the way to do it, yeah.
You're getting a walk, but inside as well. So, this is Gallery 1, and this is basically all about the development of Llandudno as a resort, and as from its earliest sort of iterations to up until the sort of 20th century. I've got a film here, Watch the Child. It always makes me laugh. This is a film called Naples of the North, and it was made in 1933, and it would have been shown in lots of the cinemas, so Manchester, Birmingham, etc. You can see this swish dining room here, and the idea was that this was to encourage you to come and see Llandudno, because obviously it had up to the minute decor inside. You can see obviously the promenade. I mean, it's a great film actually, it's fantastic for time travel. You can see the steamer at the end there, because obviously the steamer would come from Liverpool here, and then obviously drop off Isle of Man, then back, and then back to Liverpool. But as I said, it was kind of an important part of transport. What's really nice about this film is, as I said, it shows you sort of along the prom and the beach. But people are pretty much still doing today what they were doing in 1933. So I think this is the county actually, county hotel in Chardon, with its particular, as I said, stylish interior. But you know, it shows you that people go down to the boating lake. People are going, you know, along the prom. People are bathing in the sea. This is all obviously the staff and the visitors outside. So as I said, Conway. So it takes you all the way up to Menai Strait. So I do recommend actually, as I said, if you've got time, you know, we'll go round first. But yeah, this is great to have a look at. As I
Can
said.
I just ask, this piece of film,
Yeah.
is this actually accessible online anywhere, so we can actually
It's-
share it on our social media?
You can't. I had to get special permission. It
Oh,
took me
okay.
6 months.
Right.
To get this, so yeah, it's because we had to get permission from it's at Aberystwyth at the Welsh Library, BFI. But yeah, I know, as I said, because I
Because
saw
that
it.
is absolutely
It
wonderful.
is.
It's
Yeah.
just delightful, it really is.
It is, yeah, and as I said, and
Brilliant
also,
design.
I mean, you can see how much the town's been developed. There's all
Yeah.
the green fields here, looking over to
I was
us.
hoping, I keep looking thinking, is our house going to pop up?
Yeah,
I
well-
don't think it's famous enough street.
Well, as I said, but it has quite a good shot round, you know,
Yeah.
as I said.
Yeah.
But
There are similar on Facebook, but less good, to be honest.
There'll be something.
Plenty of film of it.
yeah, but as I said, this is kind of, as I said, so you get a bit of time travel here. On here, we've also got a touch screen. So you've seen I put you out some OS maps, which I think are always interesting because they do show you pretty much, you know, how much the town has developed and what wasn't here. Obviously, this is about the development by the Mostyn family, and obviously following the Act of Enclosure. There was then the plans then to develop the town. And I never remember his name. Owen Williams, that was it. He did the sort of initial grid plan for Llandudno, and as I said, you can see this tide map shows us virtually nothing here. That's St George's Church, and then over there in the corner is actually the tabernacle, but the tabernacle has been built 3 times, and this is the 3rd version of it, so it would have been a much simpler building, but the rest of it is fields. The little painting that you can see in the corner there, that's the earliest painting we've got of Llandudno, and that's 1852, and it's looking out towards the West Shore. So there was habitation here, obviously on the lower slopes of the Orme, and there were farms as well, and there were sort of little bits of farms and buildings dotted about, but you know, this area that we see as Llandudno, the town, was pretty much mainly just sort of quite marshy land in certain areas as well, so it would have been kind of seen as waste.
I just mentioned that was the home of my great-great-grandparents in 1837.
Really? Well, that's fantastic. Well, as I said, well, that is the earliest picture that we have of Llandudno. So, as I said, I do try and look online and see if I can find it. There's lots of earlier prints, but nothing goes quite back as far as this. You can run through this, so you can then sort of go press and it goes to 1902, and it's really interesting because then you sort of jump from that to then it'll just overlay, and it just shows you instantly, just actually in quite a short period of time, how much the town has developed. So I recommend having a look at that, as I said, but we'll carry on our walk. So I said this is mainly development of the town. Behind you we've got a cabinet with basic to do with the resort and pastimes and things that people did. So I particularly like the donkey driver at the top there. And then you've got the Llandudno town porter, because obviously when you arrived, your porter would have been licensed by the town hall to go and collect your luggage, so you didn't endanger anybody running off with your cases. Again, in here we've got a nice stead for the crown, little bits of tourism memorabilia in here. Again, these are quite early, they're just early 20th century pieces from the post office, because obviously mail, Llandudno's got loads and loads of post boxes actually, some of them quite early. So if you're interested in the post office, it's quite interesting. And obviously that was the main means of people's communication. Little bits on the trams. These are cups here, which were the local societies were quite keen on growing chrysanthemums amongst other things. So it's just to show what people sort of did in their leisure, and obviously got images behind. In the corner over here, we then sort of move on to Llandudno as a working town, because not only did everybody, you know, we tried to encourage people to come here on holiday, but it also brought people in to service the town. So obviously as the town grew, there was a requirement for more staff for the hotels, for the shops. Also people started businesses, market gardens were started, because there was all of this, growing town with opportunities that, as I said, was needing to be serviced. In the corner here, these are basically cups and saucers from the chapels, and also from the temperance room. So you've got the cocoa house here. Also, what's interesting as a fact is that here you can see 1907, Llandudno held the first National Union Women's Suffrage Society in the whole of Wales. So the first suffragette meeting was here at the Cocoa House, it's first in Wales. You've got a little suffragist brooch in the cabinet there, because obviously they would wear those so they could identify each other through the colour of their jewellery. And again, as I said, it just shows how the town developed. Obviously, that was Marks and Spencer's in 1936 when it first arrived. I know it's now moved, but as I said, that's just an overview of the town as a working town. Behind us we've got a little bit about the hotels, and we've got a chair and a table which shows you the experience of either staying, say, somewhere like the St George's, where you get a nice prawn cocktail and possibly a martini, or staying somewhere like my granny's guest house, where you had a big fry-up in the sort of, early 70s with a mug of tea before you set off for the day. So it shows sort of two sides of the town. And as I said, again, room with a view. Again, also we've got the Queen of Romania, Carmen Silva, was here. And obviously you've got street names named after her, and she gave the town its motto. If we move round here...
Excuse me. Where was the Cocoa House? I've heard you mention before, but I don't know where
Oh,
it is.
right. If you know where the car park is behind the town hall.
Yes.
Okay, you've got the toilets there, haven't you? That little side street there. If you walk down, you'll see a blue plaque. Now there's a blue plaque at the back, and the front of it is now Botanic Bay. So it was that building that was originally the Cocoa House. But the plaque, if you look on the front, you won't find it. The plaque is actually round the back. So as I said, it's just opposite and just slightly lower down from where the entrance are to the public toilets by the car park. So it is a little bit hidden away. Again, this is one of the reasons why we're thinking of developing our plaque walk, because there are plaques around town to the sort of various different people, and sort of historic facts that nobody knows about really, as I said, unless you kind of stumble across them. Anyway, so as I said, that's the Cocoa House. Obviously we've got lots of churches, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and they were all kind of covered sort of almost every denomination. So as the town grew, it was kind of deemed important that everybody had somewhere to worship. So hence the plethora of churches, and obviously we have Gwalchmai here. His church was the church which is now the Soft Play Centre, just as you go up Doveridge Road. He was quite keen on actually having a bilingual church, so he'd have a service in Welsh and then a service in English. And obviously he's there proudly wearing all his Bardic medals. And then as we move around here, we've got a little piece here, basically about the landscape really, and the parks and gardens. So obviously Marine Drive, Holfrey Gardens, and as I said, Poaching, who designed Holfrey Gardens, was also the designer for Boddenham Gardens. We have got earlier pictures of it, and it was amazing. I mean, I suppose it's the cost and upkeep and everything else, but when it was in its heyday, it was completely fabulous. And again, obviously Hackney Valley had gardens as well, much more than they do today. And obviously there was the theatre there. So this gives you a little overview of these gardens and the walks that there are around Llandudno, and obviously the Marine Drive, which was developed from Cust's Path. And then if we walk round here into the corner, we have transportation corner, as I like to call it.
Thanks very much. ages a young boy many years ago.
Yeah, so in the corner here we've got models obviously of the steamers. There's another one here as well. So that was one of the main means of transport for getting to Llandudno. The railway came in 1858. However, the railway wasn't always particularly reliable, and the trains would often break down and have to be horse-drawn to get here. So it sort of kind of improved. But as I said, you've got the steamers, and then also the trams. But the trams originally would have run from Old Colwyn all the way through to here, and there are tram tracks underneath Gloddaeth Street here. We've got a couple outside, and the large round shelter at the bottom of Gloddaeth Avenue. That was a tram stop, and you can see here we've got some of the signage here, and here we always got an image of Mostyn Street here with people getting ready to jump on the tram and go and do their shopping. Interesting, there are quite a few films actually online actually of the trams showing the route of the trams. So again, that was the way that lots of people, and particularly local people, would come into Llandudno, because it was a very popular shopping resort. It was originally sort of deemed to have like its Golden Mile. We had Wartskis here, we had Blairmans here, we had quite a lot of high quality stock shops and auction houses. Obviously, Goldsmiths is where Wartskis was, and you could still see the mosaic there. And we talk about a lot of this actually when we do our Jewish history walk. Again, because quite a few of those businesses, like Lazar's, that was a department store here as well. Blairmans, for instance, are still going, but they're down in London now. But they started here in 1884, and they're still international furniture and art dealers, and they have a big showroom down in London. They're a bit in a sort of similar ilk to Christie's in a way, as I said, so they're operating from here. And again, there are lots of very fashionable clothes stores. Claire's, which is on here. In the cabinet there, you can see what's like a large brass tube, and that's the Lansom, and it's a little bit, like, are you being served with the compressed air? You put the money in, off it would whiz round up to the cash office, and then the receipt would come back down. And we've got some of the little tubes at the top there from Claire's and one of their stamps. Interestingly, we had a lady in she'd worked in a similar department store where they had these in Leeds, and she said, they took them out in the 60s there. And she said, up until that point, they had never had any petty theft on the shop floor because all the money went up. But then when they took it out and they put the tills in, as I said, there was. So it wasn't quite the move forward. I think that's some of the department stores thought it would be by getting rid of it. I mean, in here you can see obviously there's a mirror. There's quite hats were always really important. So milliners, drapers in the town. We've got quite a lot of Nevsky and in here and other sort of Oriental pieces of art. And Blairmans. They said they used to have their store was where the culture cafe culture is, and they also used to hold auctions on the end of the pier. But they sort of did lots of sort of objet d'art, particularly sort of Oriental art. It was very fashionable. So as I said, we have some pieces here. We do know that Chardon, he bought some pieces from there, and in fact Martin Levy, who's the chair of Blairmans today, is hopefully going to have a bit more of a rummage in his archives for me, so we can do a bit more identification of the things that he bought. The cups and saucers here, these are from Wartskis. Obviously Wartskis have two stores here. A bit of Marks and Spencer's, nice sort of Marks and Spencer's 70s scarf there. Obviously we more sort of shots, and then we have a bit of both. Behind we've got little bits of entertainment that the town had. So obviously there was lots of sort of acts like Lord Helps. Queries there, we had, obviously there was the pool and lots of different shows went on. Interestingly, I always like to point this out to everybody, Llandudno had the Olympics here twice, and it was in 1865 and 66, and John Hulley is actually one of the founding fathers of the Olympic movement, and Princess Anne actually unveiled a statue to him in Liverpool, so he's quite an important figure. And actually when they held the Olympics here, people were given gold, silver and bronze medals. So it's, you know, as I said, it is actually a very important fact, which I think not enough people know about, so I bang on about that. There's the picture there is the Festival of Lights, which was kind of like the crowning finish of the Olympic event. And John Hurley got very cross because the Llandudno boatmen obviously wanted to make a bit of extra cash. So they were all supposed to go out into the bay and sort of float around looking picturesque with all of these lanterns. But some of them were sneakily trying to do tours of the bay on the side. So there's a whole load of it about it in newspaper archives. It's really quite funny, so he gets quite cross over that. And then, as I said, it's the, you know, the Pierrots, obviously the donkeys. Everybody, I mean, I went on the donkeys when I was little. We do, in fact, actually have a donkey saddle downstairs, but I'm not quite sure how we're going to display that. So that's one to think about. But then again, I said, and it's still all the usual things, you know, paddling on the beach, and then of course we've got a Punch and Judy in the corner here, which the kids go into and because we've got puppets in there, which they normally bash the living daylights out of actually, but it's quite good fun. So we try and balance, you know, obviously what we've got for adults, but also for children. So hence we've got some of the toys here in the bottom. So just to show that actually not everybody has an iPad, you know, or some sort of Nintendo. People actually have physical things to play with, and we've got the teddies. So now we've done here, we're going to whip round the corner and we'll do a...
Before we go, we just had a little creative thing happening here, because we see all these are small artifacts and people don't know what's happening with it. So we came up with a creative initiative of something like that, where you can 3D see the picture, you can enlarge and see you know, every detail of the artifact. So this is an ongoing thing we are working on, and we will be displaying barcodes wherever it is pictured, so you can actually see. So you can see the signatures to the bottom, top. It's made with a 360-degree camera, if I'm right. So yes, that's one of the digitalized initiative we are making.
It's one of our technical yes. So anyway, we'll whiz through and we'll go upstairs. That was the monkey, which is my favourite actually.
Is everyone happy to go on stage?
Yeah, and otherwise there is a lift at the back.
And as we go, any yellow doors are toilets in case you need. They're on every floor. After refurbishment, I think it's in 2021.
It was in June, because we had closed and then we had COVID.
And it's renovation
Yeah.
so everything you see is freshly done, newly done. So
So this gallery is the Field Club collection basically, and the Field Club started in 1906 and they were early sort of antiquaries and naturalists. So this is them here in all of their finery. I always say I think the ladies are having a hat competition because they all seem to be sort of, who's got the biggest? I personally think that she may have won, but so as I said. But they went round, they documented sites, they also recorded the flora and fauna, which is really interesting for us today, because we have got lists of the species that were prevalent, you know, when they're doing their recording, say for the Orme and in the local areas. So from a monitoring point of view of the local biodiversity, we can see what was there and is not there anymore. So as I said, there's the poor stuffed turtle, the caiman head, lots of bugs. One of the members was a cabinet maker, so we get wood imported, and he used to make little cabinets, and it's not everybody's cup of tea with bugs, but we do try and tell the children when they come in today that we like to photograph animals today, not stuff them. So as I said, but they're always kind of like, you know, the insects particularly, they're quite keen on. There are other artefacts in here. We've got a boomerang, also. I mean, it's really kind of quite eclectic. Elephants too, you name it, they collected it.
Kids love that.
They do, yeah. And then on behind us, we've got the wall here. These are actually, I use some of the journals to create like a wallpaper. So that just gives you an idea of what the journals look like. And then there's a mushroom there, and actually sort of just underneath there's an article called A Chat About Fungi, and that's written by Angela Brazel. And she was quite well known for being the author of the very sort of first sort of schoolgirl boarding school adventures. And her books are widely collected, but lots of people don't really understand that she had a very strong interest in natural history and was very keen on fungi, amongst other things. One of the other members was Dora Thomas. Her father had the Hydro Hotel, and she corresponded with Old Price, who was a close friend of Darwin. Darwin came to London. Lots of people don't know that. So, as I said, there is a whole ream of her correspondence. She was quite interested in flora, fauna, particularly butterflies was one of her things. Anyway, we'll move through into here, away from the
I've got dragonflies here also.
I come in every week, I learn something.
Well, if you don't know, we've had it.
Well, I'm ready, yeah.
That's the little monkey.
Oh,
yes.
Just go from incessant to persistent, they're ready with the weather.
Right, this is great. Okay, this is the Chardon Gallery, which is basically dedicated to Effie Chardon, whose bequest made the whole idea of Llandudno Museum possible, and we are the Chardon Trust. He was an artist, also a man of leisure. His money came from indigo plantations, hence the film. So his family had indigo plantations in the Bengal, and he came over. His mother moved here first, and she took rooms at the county hotel, and then he followed her. But most of his life he sort of travelled, studied art. These are all by him here, so on the wall, and he was actually exhibited. Again, this is quite a lot of his objet d'art. We've got quite a wide collection of his art. That's the man himself with his hat on there. As I said, apparently he was a very nice one. We have got some sort of indication, you know, from his housekeeper and his servants, and he seems to have been a very kind man actually as well. He was very interested in art as well, so not only studying painting, he collected, and he was friendly with quite a lot of artists. Behind us we have the Degas. I wish it was real Degas, otherwise I'd never have to fundraise ever again. I keep thinking we must get Fiona Bruce down here with Philip Mull. But anyway, but we suspect it's not real, but you never know. And then above it again we've got a still life. In the cabinet there are some of his sketches. There are some fantastic Indian miniatures. They are amazing. They are painted on ivory. They're absolutely fantastic. And then we've got a little bit here about, you know, Francis Chardon, his life, and as I said, his sort of collecting. So this is, as I said, this is what the foundation of the museum started from. Anyway, we'll move from Mr. Chardon into...
Again, I'm interrupting. If you want to know more about Chardon's legacy, we are having a performance on 15th and 16th of October, and you can have more information on our websites or on the leaflets.
Yes.
We have some in the education room where we came from. That's why I said we'll gather again so you can pick up some leaflets. So feel free.
Yes, it's going to be a dramatic performance that's been written, so it'll be on promenade through the museum.
What's his connection with Rapallo House then?
Well, he had Rapallo House, and that's where the museum was, and it's called Rapallo because apparently his mother's family were related to minor Italian aristocracy. That's where the Rapallo comes from. And then, because of obviously where it was, you know, I mean, I lived in Crum, I'm from Chardon. You know, if you're local, you might be able to find it. If you're a visitor, you would never have found it because it's up Fernbark Road along the side of Lady Foresters. So, hence the museum was then moved here because at least it's, you know, people might spot us, which I don't think they would have done at that. We'll pop through here. So.
After you.
I don't think he played.
I used to love Rapallo House as well, it was a really old building.
Right, well this is the prehistory gallery here. So this is all about the earliest occupation of the area, because obviously there was no Llandudno there. So this is just tells you about the forming of the landscape. As we probably all know, all is limestone and it's sedimentary rock, which would have been formed millions of years ago under a tropical sea that would have had coals, etc. So that's what this is about here. We've got in the cabinet there some hand axes. There is the quarry grey fluid in Pembrokeshire, and lots of axes were made there, in particularly in the Neolithic. And what's interesting with those particular axes is the fact that they seem to have been traded very widely. I think because they polished up nicely, and the thought is that they may have been kind of quite high status gifts. So if you're going to go and visit another kinship group, you might take that along as a gift, as I said, as a kind of welcome. So they were kind of, as I said, a high status object. Here we've got a little animation which is about Kendrick's Cave and the horse jaw. The horse jaw, this is a replica, is the earliest piece of art ever found in Wales. So it's 13,500 years old, and it's incised with like a chevron design, and it's coloured with red ochre. So you can see this is just an interpretation. Obviously we don't know for sure, but there was an animal tooth necklace. There is also, as I said, the horse jaw. You can see here he's putting red ochre on it, and we think because of ochre is kind of like a blood colour. We think that it's obviously got some ritualistic, symbolic meaning. So it's here. The other early burial that's been found in Wales is down in South Wales, and that's the Red Lady of Paverland. Again, red ochre is used there. However, I do hasten to add that the Red Lady of Paverland is actually a man. They misidentified the skeleton and sexed it wrongly, but it's actually a chap. So if you do look it up, you think, oh, it's the Red Lady, but it's not, it's actually a man. But again, as I said, we think the ochre had a very strong sort of symbolic meaning. So obviously Kendrick discovered the cave. He was there busily sort of chipping out minerals and quartz and things to polish. And then he kind of had this, he built like a little building on the front really. And as I said, he sold polished stones, and then he had this kind of grotto, as I said before. So you can see, and again, these are some of the finds that have been found locally. So that's Kendrick's Cave. In here we have who we call Gloddaeth. She's the Lady of the Little One, and she's approximately 5,500 years old. She's extremely unusual for somebody from the Neolithic, because she's around about 59. Now, to be honest, in the Neolithic you did extremely well to reach 30. 30 would have been the average age of death. To get to 30 was quite good. So she must have been pretty tough. As I said, because obviously, any wound, anything else, infections, very hard life. So obviously childbirth as well. Women did die quite young. Women usually died earlier than men as well, I hasten to add. So as I said, she's a little bit of an outlier. We do know, obviously, from looking at her spine here at the vertebrae, the signs of arthritis. Unfortunately, there was more of Gloddaeth once upon a time. When she was found by the quarryman, there was no museum here, so she went to Bacup Natural History, because that's where the quarry manager was from, so she was taken there. Anyway, she was there for many, many years until I think it was around about 2008. I think they managed to get her back here before I arrived. However, at Bacup, somebody thought she looked a bit dirty. So they thought it'd be a brilliant idea to put her in the washing machine. So unfortunately, less of Gloddaeth came out than went in, which is a bit of a shame, particularly for the skull, because there was a little bit more, and we would have been able to get a little bit more of a facial reconstruction, which, as I said, you can do the measurements and actually get an idea, particularly with age and things, tissue depth, etc. But yes, so she is, I think, the only Neolithic skeleton that I've ever heard of that has been put in a washing machine. So there. In this one behind us again, this is more really again with a little one. We've got some bone tools and these at the bottom, which are from the copper mines. and that's why they're green, because they've taken up the malachite. But again, this is from Pantawennol, and we've got things like pot boilers, which were stones that be put in the fire and then dropped in the pot to heat your food. Also, Pantawennol Cave is actually, I think a lot of people think of the little one as you go up the hill, it's the bit that sticks out to the sea on that side of the road. But of course it isn't, it's all of that headland, and Pantawennol is actually sort of further over that cave. So again, you know, we're looking here, there's quite a lot of Neolithic occupation. There was some isotope analysis done of Glodwyn's bones just to see what her diet was. Because we know, like in the Mesolithic, everyone's eating fish, there's Olympic mounds everywhere where we go at early sites. But in the Neolithic, there's a sudden switch to eating much more meat. But we thought it would be interesting, particularly with Glodwyn, because here she is right by the sea. But no, she follows the pattern. Her diet is predominantly meat. So again, she's typical of that switch. So this is Glodwyn here. And then if we walk...
Do the DNA, have you given any descendants of it?
No, we haven't done DNA. We've done some, which we're waiting to get from Kendrick's Cave, but we're waiting to hear back from that. So that's down at UCL again. And normally, you see with Glodwyn, again, because she's been through the washing machine, if you're going to try and get DNA from early human remains, your best bet really are the teeth, because they tend to be sealed and you go through the enamel, so DNA tends to survive reasonably well. It's more difficult. You can go into like a thigh bone and things, but again, it depends on the conditions. Again, so you know, obviously you've got to be very careful about contamination when it comes to doing DNA testing. Anyway, if we whisk through here, we'll go and see remains from Canadian. So in here, there's a film behind you which is about the copper mines, which on the Orban, obviously we know they're Bronze Age. I've got on the wall over there are metalwork finds that are from the area. So, you know, I don't want kind of everyone to think that nothing was kind of happening in the Bronze Age and Iron Age. It was, and those are, so you can see the gold, and they're hair locks. Again, there's also a little socketed axe as well here. On the wall here is a coin, which is a gold stater. That was found on the slopes of Penydynnes, which is the Iron Age hill fort just here. So as I said, it's on the Orme. Only 2 of the hut circles, there's over 60, have been excavated, and so we do know that they were trading with the Romans, because out of the 2 there was some Samian ware that was found in one of the excavated hut circles, but because it's only 2 that have been excavated, even though it's dated as being sort of Iron Age Romano-British period, some of it may well be earlier, and I suspect it probably is actually. But as I said, the gold state, so again it's showing that there's trade. In here, these are the finds from Canovian Roman fort. The pot at the top with all of the decoration on it, that is a piece of Samian ware. So that's quite fancy Roman dinnerware. So obviously he was on at Penydynnes, obviously fancied a little bit of that for their own table. Thank you very much. In here we've got various items. At the back there's what was like a little piece of sort of grey slatey rock with some counters on it. They're from a Roman game called Latrunculi, which means little soldiers. It's like Nine Men's Morris, so it's like a little game of drafts. So it's a little game of strategy, but that was played, you know, quite widely over the Roman Empire. And on one of the tiles at the bottom, we think somebody's tried to make a scratch board there. So you can kind of envisage some sort of poor Roman soldier in wet and windy Wales, a bit bored, not much is happening, so him and his pals are having a game. We've got obviously some gold coins in here, Roman brooches, those are beads. The little blue vase that you can see in the middle, that's very tiny. All the Victorians came up with the idea that it was a tear vase. They called them tear vases because these do turn up in Roman burials, and the Victorians, I think possibly due to Victoria, had this kind of very melancholic view of death, and they liked the idea that you went round and collected your tears. you know, from the mourners, and they were put in a bottle and buried, but actually that's highly unlikely. It probably has some very nice perfumed oil in it rather than anybody's tears, so I think that's a little bit of theatrical and dramatic interpretation. There is in here a little tile, so I'll come and have a look at it. I'll move out of the way in a moment, but it's got a child's footprint in it, which is one of my favourite things, because I just think it shows that kind of little bit of, you know, humanity. These aren't just things. So some child was probably shouted at for stepping on that. I would have thought they were there very busy, you know. And as I said, you can see there's other pieces of Roman glass and mortaria. And then if I step over here, you can go and have a look. But on the wall, that is the archaeologist's interpretation, which was Bailey Reynolds. He excavated Knoven in the 20s, so that's the impression of what it was thought to look like. That is the plan from the excavation. I have got all of his notebooks as well, which are really interesting because it's telling you where the finds are coming up, so it gives you a good idea of the distribution. So that's the interpretation there. This here is the bathhouse going down to the river, but again they would have used the river for transportation. This out here is a little bit of as being interpreted as local settlement outside Roman forts. There was often a settlement would grow up, so in York there was a big vicus there, that's what they were called. Whereas here obviously this is a smaller fort, but again there would have been some sort of trading along the river. Interestingly, they had to have many more forts in North Wales. South Wales were quite happy to become client kingdoms, and there was much more resistance, and the North was far more troublesome for the Roman Empire, so they gave them a run for their money up here. So that's the Knoven. There is an aerial photograph there of what Knoven looks like today. I do go, but but make sure the church is open because it's got interpretation. Actually, on the ground, you can't, unless you really are looking for it, it's quite hard to discern.
You need a helicopter, really.
You do, yeah, a drone, really. But as I said, it's at Chardon, so as I said, it's not too far up the Conway Valley. In this corner here, we've got a little bit of medieval. There's not a huge amount of medieval to London there. Obviously, there was the Bishop's Palace on the west shore, Gloddaeth Abbey. Here we talk about the Mostins and the pews. And basically the story is really that the pews, because they were Catholics, and so obviously after the Reformation, you weren't allowed to hold official offices, etc. So things that would have been sort of local positions of power and perks and things that could have been, granted out to the sort of local aristocracy, they were kind of barred from, and that's actually how quite a lot of them, made their money, the bits of perks on the side. So gradually the pews kind of descended and the Mostins rose. So these were the two sort of key families in the area. So we just got a little bit about them there. Obviously there's an interpretation here of what Deganway Castle would have looked like. And then in here we've got the Llancaster bell. These are extremely rare. I think there's only 3 in Wales and 7 in Ireland. So that's around about 800 to 1,000. I think it probably is around about 800 actually, the bell. And as I said, they would have been either on a small sort of pulley outside and to gather people for prayer, but also they would have been used in sort of small monastic complexes, so they're not just for gathering local people to pray. They would have been in a little monastic complex, so that's quite rare. And then what you can see next to it is called a buckler shield, and they were made in particularly Wrexham. Wrexham was one of the main places for manufacture of bucklers, and therefore sort of hand-to-hand combat. They've got like a nasty pointy bit on the end, so I don't think you'd want to come into contact with that. However, they were the favourite shield of Henry VIII. Obviously, being a Tudor, he was really keen on emphasising his Welshness. So obviously he would have jousts and there would be sort of military displays, hand-to-hand combat and all this sort of thing at Hampton Court and Nonsuch Palace and other places like that. And as I said, he had his own buckler shield, but also he was quite keen on the sort of infantrymen having buckler shields as well. As I said, to kind of differentiate himself as being kind of, of Welsh descent. So here, and then we'll wander through, we'll go past Rupert, our suit of armour, who usually makes me jump a bit. Get free.
Wandering like what?
Well, they would have been trading. I suspect that they would have come along the coast and traded, and probably traded for copper. But actual physicality, I mean, you know, if you're looking for buildings, no, but I wouldn't expect you to find them either. But they would have been, you know, trading in the area because it's very good.